Hello everybody, hello, thank you for joining us today. Today we're doing live stream, pretty much as all our courses, they're always live online, instructor led, so you could actually ask questions. Also we have a chats going on here, so you could actually ask questions. You could actually ask questions at any time. I'm gonna be keeping an eye on that live chat, so let me get rid of that sound. All right. Now, so what we're going to be doing today. So today we're going to talk how to get started with Python. All right. So I will explain different environments. And that basically like long time ago when I was making my first step in programming, and I also watched like YouTube videos and stuff. My first question was, all right, so but what exactly I should install on my computer so I could actually start writing Python code? So we're going to talk about this stuff. And then more importantly, we will talk about like first steps. What should you learn first? How would you build this fundament if you're planning to do data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, maybe web development, I don't know, maybe even build games. So the point I'm trying to make, I want to show you all the steps and the process how you should start learning Python. But let me say a couple of words about myself. If you're brand new to our channel, my name is Art Yudin. I've been teaching Python for more than, Jesus Christ, 8 years. Yes. And I've been teaching Python and I have developed all these courses. I also issued a couple of books about Python, so how to build versatile mobile apps. And by the way, if you're an Instagram user, guess what? Instagram is powered by Python. Yes, surprise, surprise, it's powered by Python. And then my recent book is Basic Python for Data Management, Finance, and Marketing. So that's pretty much, we're gonna touch this a little bit today. And I'm here at RoboticView.com, so please check our website RoboticView.com because it got tons of free information. So I also see questions in our chat asking, will you do intermediate Python? So guess what? Please join us next Monday for Python for Data Science. If you're watching this video as a recording on YouTube, so please check our website RoboticView.com because here in resources we usually do these free courses: Python for data science, machine learning, Python for finance, Python 101. We got tons of videos. I also explain how to solve a bunch of different problems, and if you're ready to take this like really to another level, please check our paid courses. By the way, we start in Python Intensive next week, and we do most of our courses from 6 to 9 Eastern Time. So please check this out. So that's what we're going to be doing today. All right, so I see people joining us. If you're planning to do some work with me today, I'm going to using Google Colab. So it's really easy to find this environment. It's, you just Google Colab and pretty much it will take you here. So there is no need to install anything. Everything is free, and all you need to do is to log in with the Google email, and I think it could be any email. So you just need to create Google login and the password. But let's step back for a second, and I want to talk a little bit about different environments, because if you're brand new to Python programming, that might be a little bit like confusing. So one option, you could just go to python.org and you could download Python pretty much for any environment. So here you see I'm using Mac. So you could download the latest version for Mac or for Windows, it's not important, or Linux. But then you would need to install text editor such as Visual Studio Code. That's not such a big deal. It's also free. You could just Google it and install it. And that's pretty much how you could run Python. However, if you're planning to use Python for data science, data analysis, Python for finance, what else? What else? Machine learning, artificial intelligence, I would recommend you to install Anaconda. Anaconda is also free. You see a free download pretty much for any platform, pretty much for any operational system. Now, what's the difference? Anaconda is a package. So Anaconda comes as a package with bunch of different libraries pre-installed. And if you're planning to do some serious data analysis, you would probably need libraries, and library is pretty much like a package that comes with additional functions that you need to install separately. So you see, so that's what you need to install separately, and pretty much they're all here in this package. So they're in this package, and you could get pandas, numpy, scikit-learn for machine learning, and bunch of other libraries. I don't remember how many you can find here, something about like 100 different libraries. Now again, it's free. However, if you want to do some work along with me today, there is no need to install anything. Because Anaconda honestly could take like up to 20 minutes to install. So then you could go again to Google Colab. Welcome to Google Colab. You could just Google that, Colab, C-O-L-A-B, and it's totally free. So that's kind of like Anaconda, and it's Anaconda Online. All right. So if, for example, you don't have much space in your computer, if you're planning to use iPad or just want to do something on the go, so Colab is a perfect option. So I'm going to give you a minute, and please go to Google Colab if you don't have login yet. While you get a Google login and a password, and while you get into this page, I just want to say a couple of words about our courses. So please check our website, RoboticView. If you just join us, I mentioned that we got tons of free stuff. And by the way, next Monday, same time, we're doing Python for Data Science 101. So if you want to see pandas in action, and when I say pandas in action, I'm not talking about these cute little bears that out there somewhere in China. I'm talking about panel data, which is a econometric term. And we're going to be talking about pandas on Monday. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing on Monday. And by the way, also we started in Python intensive, so that's course for complete beginners, and we're starting this next Monday, March 12th. All right, so I hope by now you got this login and password, and let me show you how to get around. So here you see there is file, and then they call files notebooks. All right, so they're called notebooks. So you could click on a new notebook, and it will create you brand new, you see, brand new file. So they call them notebooks. That's a fancy name for a file. Now here, let me show you how to get around. You could rename this file. You could call it anything. Now I'm gonna call it my first file. All right, and also you could share these files, you could download these files, you could upload more files here, and that's like really convenient. Now let me show you what we're going to be doing today, because my next step is to explain you, if you're planning to do your first steps of programming. So people asking me to increase my volume. Let me just volume. All right, so let me speak up. Okay, so hold on a second. I'm sorry about that. Let me increase the volume. Okay, I hope you could hear me better now. Please say yes or no in our channel. All right, so I hope it's going to be all right. I hope you could hear me better. I'm even gonna like get closer so everybody could hear me. All right, and again, I'm gonna keep an eye on this chat channel that's going on. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask me at any time. I'll do my best to answering them. All right, now here, so that's pretty much what you would see in Anaconda. And this thing called a cell, if you need more cells, you could just like click plus sign and you're going to get more cells. If you want to delete a cell, you delete it by delete cell and you deleting the cell. All right, so that's pretty much what is going on here. And somebody's keep calling me and I don't know. All right, so just want to make sure that my mic is working fine. I just want to, can you hear me? Okay, so people can hear me. All right, finally, let's talk about it. All right, so first cell, what I want to do here, I want to, don't think about Python right now. I'm just want to show you how to get around with this stuff. So you could create a variable name. Again, I'll talk about variable names in a minute, but for now you could do something like hello and hello. So then if you place here X and if you run the cell, so the point I'm trying to make, you always need to run the cell. You always would need to run the cell. And to run the cell, what do you need to do? You need to click this play button. All right, it might take a second. It might take a second.
I found this on the web.
It might take a second. So you could click this play button, that's what you have to do. Or you could actually do Shift Enter. So that's pretty much same operation, Shift Enter. If you want to take notes, you could take notes here, but place hashtag before them. Do we call it hashtag or pound key? Hashtag, right? So these days we call it hashtag, right? And pretty much every time you write some code here, you would need to do this, you need to run the cell. So that's pretty much how Google Colab works, all right? So that's what's going on here. That's what's going on here. And so let's start with some Python. Okay, so if you're brand new to programming, if you've never done any Python programming before, that's totally fine. But what you need to do, you need to understand where to start. And the first place where you want to start, and by the way, that doesn't matter what language, programming language you're trying to learn, you need to start with data types. Data types, you see? So you need to start with the data type. So question, what is a data type? All right. Before I give you a formal definition, let me give you my explanation of a data type. So take a look here. So here I have a bottle of water. You could actually find this bottle of water pretty much anywhere. So let's think about it. So bottle is a container. Bottle is a container. A water is the value. So you see, I need some container to hold this water. So that's a common knowledge. Also, it's a common knowledge. We know that different types of containers for water exist. We could go with the glass, we could go with the cup, we could go with a bottle, and we all understand that behavior of these containers. So pretty much we understand that we could do something like this with a bottle, but we cannot do the same with a cup. And the point I'm trying to make is that that's a common knowledge based on how you're planning to use this value water in future. You should choose an appropriate type of container. You should choose an appropriate type of container. So the same stuff with data types. So data type is just in a nutshell is a container for data. That is it. That is it. Container for data. And the first step you should be like really fluent with built-in data types, because Python comes with built-in data types. But before we before we get into that stuff, I want to give you a formal definition of a data type, because the stuff that I explained before, pretty much I came up with that myself. So data type is just a data classification mostly needed for computer, so that computers would know how we intend to use these data in future. That is what's going on, right? So that's a data type. And in Python, we have built-in data types, and I'm going to start with something simple. I want to start with numeric data types, all right? So numeric data types. You need to understand numeric data types. And let me give you an example of a numeric data type. So as a matter of fact, there are two numeric data types exist. As a matter of fact, three, but most of the time we use just two. So the first one is integers. We call them ints. So an example of an integer would be a whole number, like 7. So any whole number would be stored in Python memory as an integer. Even if it's a positive number, even if it's a negative number, 7, 7 million, 27, any number as whole, as long as it's a whole number. Then we got floats. Float would be any number with a decimal point. So any number with a decimal point will be saved as a float. So a question, should we use integers or should we use floats? The answer is depends. So pretty much think of this example again. So for example, if we talk about people or items, so then we should go with the whole numbers, right? I don't want to look silly, and I don't want to say 3.5 people, 2.5 people, right? So that's kind of silly. However, if we talk about money, then we probably should use numbers with decimal points, because although price tag might say $7, you still want to see 7.0, right? So you still want to see that point, or you still want to see decimal points. Another thing you need to understand, that math operations you do only between numeric data types. All right, so that sounds like easy, but based on my experience, and like I mentioned that before, I've been doing teaching Python teaching for more than 8 years, maybe 9 years now. I got it like count numbers. All right, so that's where beginners struggling. Most of the time they would struggle with this simple stuff. It kind of makes sense, but when we get to the actual stuff, that's kind of confusing. All right, now, and I'm going to show you why it's confusing. So here what we could do something simple. 7 plus 2.5, 2.5, and now this Python will get me result 9.5. Now another thing that you need to understand, that most of the time when we do something like this, we need to save that value, because maybe I'm planning to use that value later, right? So if you want to save that value, what you need to do, you need to use a variable name. What is a variable name? Variable name is pretty much like a label that you put on this value, all right? So then here I could do something like randomly pick variable name total. So we always place variable name on the left side, and then we do equal sign. So now total holds that value, 9.5. You see, that's what's going on. So if later you want to use that, if you want to fetch that value 9.5, and if you want to use it someplace else, maybe that's a port number, so then you could save it with the variable name total or whatever. Now, there are some limitations, what you can and what you cannot use as variable names. So usually if you take our courses, we teach best practices, what you should be using as variable names. But like in a nutshell, you cannot start a variable name with a number. And then again, it's not a good idea to use A, B, C, X, Y, Z as variable names because you don't want people to spend a lot of time figuring out what you meant by X or by Y and so on. So that's why do not be afraid to use long variable names. And yes, best practices, that's what we teach during our courses, because our job in our courses get you ready for a job interview and to get you actual job. All right, so that's what's going on here. Now then, let me show you something else. Now here I want to create new variable name as, and this time I'll assign a value. I'll assign a value 7, but take a look. Now I'm using 7 in quotes. Now, if you didn't know, you could Google it. Python built-in functions, that would be a start. Python built-in functions, so what it means that if you downloaded Python, then you already have these built-in functions, they're already there. So there is no need to learn them by heart, but I would bookmark this page so you just need to know that here you have this built-in functions. So one of my favorite functions is type. It's right here, type. So let me show you what type does. So type, for example, if we use it here, you could place total into type, and function type will reveal you data type. And I hope you remember that data type is a container of data. Data type of this object, and that's a float. All right. So now if you do type on as, lowercase s obviously, so that will get us a string. So you see, Python doesn't take that number, although for us, for humans, that looks like a number. Python doesn't take it as a numeric data type. It takes it as a string. So I'm going to give you a definition in a second what string is, but I just want you to know that that would be my first step to use type all the time. Why? Some people might argue, come on, we could see that that's a number and that's a string. That's true. But the reason why you want to learn Python, because your goal is to learn how to fetch data from different sources, how to manipulate data, and how to analyze data. And in our courses, we teach how to get data from text files, CSV files, Excel files, APIs, and SQL. And when you get that data from those sources, you have no idea what data type you're dealing with. That is why I usually use type, because now it's quite clear that that's a float and that's a string. All right? So what is a string? String, you always use quotes, and string is a collection of numbers, letters, special characters, and maybe even empty spaces. So definition goes like this. String is a sequence of characters. Sequence of characters. So some people would define it as pretty much as text. Yes, you could say text, but if you want to program as a pro, not as amateur, and if you want to use this pro language, so that's a sequence of characters. And by the way, when you go to job interview, the first thing they're going to ask you, all right, so what are the built-in data types in Python? And you should be able, without no hesitation, to explain built-in data types in Python. Because let's face it, would you hire a carpenter if the guy cannot tell you the difference between hammer and a screwdriver, right? So that would be, believe it or not, that would be the first question. I mean, after they ask you about your commute and your name and what you ate for breakfast, something like that. So that would be the first question. And you should be able to answer all the simple questions just like that without thinking. So, one more time. String is a sequence of characters, and characters could be anything that wrapped in quotes. There is no limit how long string could be. Also, it doesn't matter if here we use single quotes or double quotes, because still would be a string. Now, one thing you should remember, if you open with a double, closed with a double, open with a single, closed with a single. Always be consistent. And where I'm getting with that, I'm just trying to say that, remember what I told you before, math operations, I misspelled, I'm sorry, bad speller. Operations between numeric data types only, okay, only. So what I'm trying to explain here is that, for example, if we take 7 and add 7 and quotes, we're gonna get an error message. You see, an error message. Now, error messages, I don't want to say that I really love them, but one of the reasons why I love Python, because they always explain you what went wrong. So in my class, if somebody's saying, hey, I got an error, something's not working, the first thing I would ask to do is to read me the last line. And that's what you should do. I know it requires practice to learn how to debug these error messages. And by the way, here you see they got this new technology, like all these copilots and everything. So you could just click here and they will Google this for you. But if you read it, so basically they're saying that you cannot use plus operator between integer numeric data type and the string, because that's a string, right? So pretty much what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to add apples to oranges, and I believe that's not a good idea unless you're trying to make a fruit salad. All right, so that's what's going on here. Now again, if you didn't get it, so Google it. You could click here, explain error. But with experience, you learn all these errors, and then next time you see it, you say, "Oh boy, I know how to fix it." All right, so let me show you how to fix it. Now, obviously, we don't want to do something like this, but let's pretend that this 7 as a string comes from some other source. I don't know, from API, maybe from file, I don't know. So then we could go to built-in functions, and there are a couple of functions we could use. So first of all, there is function integer right here, integer. So then there is another function float, and then there is another function str. So let me show you all three scenarios. So here, 7 what are we talking about? We're talking about 7 people. So if, for example, we're talking about 7 people, so obviously that's supposed to be a whole number. I'll use int. And now you see what I'm doing, because this 7 and in quotes looks like a number from 0 to 9. I could try and convert it to numeric data type. You see, that's what's going on. So 7 is an integer plus 7, now it's another integer, 14. So that's one option. All right, what else can we do? So maybe we're talking about $7. So if we talk about money, so then instead of integer, I could convert it to float. And when I take 7 as an integer plus 7 as a float, float always wins. So if $7, so probably float would be more appropriate. And I'm going to show you an example, and you'll see that difference, all right? However, there is one more option. And that option would be, we could take the 7 as an integer. We could use function str, and we could convert that integer to a string and leave the string as is. So now, obviously, there is no math happening. Basically, we're concatenating these two strings. And just to show you how that plus operator works, I might do something silly. I know it doesn't make any sense. I could even concatenate more text here, you see? So that's what's going on. And the point I'm trying to make is when you're making your first steps in programming, it's very important to learn and understand data types and what we call behavior of data types. So what do I mean by that? So behavior, I mean, you see in all three instances, I'm using plus operator here, here, here. But in all these three examples, plus operator works differently. See, that's what's going on. And that's exactly what we call behavior of data types. And that's what we teach in our course that we start next week from 6 to 9 p.m. Python intensive. So agenda of this course is to learn how to use all built-in data types. And then if you build the fundament here, you could move to something more sophisticated, such as Python for data science. And this is where we teach all these like cool libraries such as pandas, numpy, matplotlib, seaborn, and prepare you for machine learning, where we learn all these algorithms, you see. But you gotta build the fundament first. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about when I say pandas, if you still confuse this with little bears that out there somewhere in China, so please join us for free Python for Data Science 101 next Monday. All right, let's get back here. So that's pretty much what's going on. You need to understand how to use all these data types. Now you might say, hey, this is kind of cool. But what's a practical use? Could you explain me what's a big deal about this stuff? All right, let's build something practical. And what could be more practical than tax and tip calculator? So here I want to show you an example how to build tax and tip calculator. Okay. Now we all go out, and suppose at the end of the day, they bring you a check. They always bring you a check, right? So check is, let's keep numbers round and simple for now. Let's say check is $50. All right, so check is $50. So then you gotta pay tax and tax rate. And I'm in New York, so tax rate is around 8%. So then you need to leave tip. Yeah, so if we have some international people join us from other countries, guess what? In United States, you always leave a tip. So tip rate will be somewhat around 20%. So that's what kind of given. So basically what we could do, we could actually build a program that will calculate this total, how much you should pay in total. If check is 50, then tax rate on top of that, then tip rate on top of that. All right. So let's try to build it. Now, so this is where exactly we teach people how to use, we teach best practices, how you do it in real life. So first of all, we don't say x equal 50. No, that's too confusing. That's terrible, terrible story. So if it's check, call it check. All right. Another thing, do not begin variable names with capital letters. Don't get me wrong. This would work, but that's also not a good practice. So check with a capital letter, check. So we define in variable names. And then tax rate. So again, if it's tax rate, do not be afraid to use long variable names. So usually in Python, we use something called snake case underscore tax rate. And tax rate would be 8%. Okay, so then we got tip rate. And tip rate would be 20%. So that's what kind of given. All right. So then what we want to do all our expressions, And first thing first, we want to know, all right, so what would be dollar amount for a tax? Because we got this total, I mean, check, it's not total yet. We got tax, which is rate. So we want to get this dollar amount for a tax. So I'll do tax and I'll take this check and I'll multiply it with this asterisk by tax rate. Okay, so that will get me tax rate. Now again, keep in mind, Python, pretty much as any programming language, is very case sensitive. Everything is case sensitive. So tax rate with a capital T and lowercase t would be two different things, right? Just keep that in mind. So then I want to do the same for tip. So that would be check. And I want to calculate the dollar amount for tip rate. So that would be times tip rate. All right. Now, usually I would recommend when you write new code, go baby steps. Just write line of code, check if it works. Write another line of code, see if it works. So I will use command print. By the way, command print is one of the Python built-in functions, so you'll find it here. And here you could place tax, and then I just want to make sure that it works. So apparently tax would be $4. Yeah, it's in New York, it's not very cheap, right? So yeah, $4. All right, you see what's going on. So that's tax. Just want to make sure I'm getting everything right. So that's tax rate, that's tip rate. All right, cool. So now we want to get total. So total would be what? Check plus tax plus tip. And then here we could squeeze in print statement, and you could say your total is, and then here we could place check. All right, and then 50, something's wrong. Hold on a sec. No. Tax tip. Let me see where I made a mistake. Okay, so check is 50. So it cannot, total cannot be. Total. Oh boy. Total. And total is $64. All right. Now, while you're finishing this, and I hope you get the same. So let me show you one little trick, because I always get this question asked. Yeah, that's kind of cool, but what if you want to have two zeros? What if you want to have two zeros after that decimal point? Because come on, we talk about money. So, and that's what I teach here. We could use format. I don't want to get like too much into details, because I don't want to say like really complicated concept, but we need to get into methods. And methods would be a totally different thing that what I was planning to show you today. So here we could actually format, and format is a method of a string. So you could make it as nice as possible. You could place $sign here. You could use this colon to F. So F means exactly two numbers after decimal point. And format is a method of a string. So pretty much I teach everything what you see here in our Python intensive course that begins on March 12th. That's Tuesday, and we started from 6 p.m. and work till 9 p.m. and check that schedule, because I know you people gotta make a living and you work. All right, so that's what's going on. I hope everybody got the same. Again, if something's not working, or if you have questions, you let me know. We got our chats going on. But you're probably asking yourself a question. That's kind of cool. But what if we want to make it versatile? What if we want to use any number instead of 50? Come on. We're in New York. What are the chances that check will be exactly $50? I'd say pretty slim. So what we could do, and again, I'm going back to built-in functions, and there is a function, where is the function? Function input. All right, let's take a look. So function input prompts a user to enter some value. So pretty much what it does, it prompts the user to enter value, grabs that value and assigns to a variable name. So pretty much you could actually insert any number. However, there is one little problem. You see, one little problem. I'm actually highlighting this stuff right here. So apparently, you think that you enter in a number, but input always converts that number to a string. So at the end of the day, even if you enter the number, that number would be coming as a string. So that would be a problem. So let me show you how to deal with that. So here, instead of hard coding 50, I'll use input. And while you do input, you could actually place here any string, kind of pass a message to a user. By the way, that would be a good idea to kind of like manage a user or kind of lead a user. So here you could say something like, you could write pretty much anything. How much is your meal? All right. But obviously, if you want to do something more sophisticated than that, that's up to you because that's a string. And again, string is a sequence of characters and text, so pretty much you could write whatever. Now, if I leave it like this, and if I run this, and suppose you see, it looks like it's working, and I'm going to enter 50. By the way, keep in mind that if you place number here, you must, I want to underline that, you must hit return. You see, or enter, you see, whatever you got on your keyboard. Because otherwise it will keep spinning and spinning and spinning. It will be waiting for you, but you need to hit enter. And you see, we're getting this problem. And by the way, if you take a look, it actually tells us that the problem was initiated on this line. Okay, if you scroll down, it points to line 4. And then it says, cannot multiply sequence by non-integer type float. Now again, if you have no idea what they're talking about, I would definitely recommend you to click this explain error so they will Google it. However, it's quite clear because input returns a string. And let me scroll up a little bit. Remember what I told you, math operations between numeric data types only. That's what you need to remember. All right, good. So now how we're going to fix it? So we need to take this check and convert this to numeric data type. All right, now let me show you something else. Suppose you didn't get it, and that's okay. Now let me show you how you should debug your code. So here you need to squeeze a print statement. And what I want to do, I want to print check because I'm not sure, maybe input's not working. And then remember function type I showed you before. I want to see what data type I'm getting from line 1. So if I rerun the cell, if I enter a number, 50, by the way, do not forget to hit enter. So you see, it like second line gives me 50 and it's a string. And now it rings a bell because I remember that I cannot do math between floats and tax rate is a float and the check, which right now is a string. So we need to do pretty much what we were doing here, right? And which function would be more appropriate? I would go with the float. Why? Because let's face it, we talk about money. People always want to be precise about money. So usually what people do, they use check. And again, if we talk about best practices that we teach in our courses, I would extend it with a float. So now it kind of makes sense that this check is a float. And then I use function float and I will pass check here, and now this will be converted to a float. So now I could do math. However, since I'm using different variable name, I need to replace this old check here with the check float and with the check float. All right, so let me see if mine's working, and then we'll talk more about it. So let me run this. You see, prompting me to enter value, let's say 50. And now, still something's not working. You see, I didn't change this here. So here we'll also need to change this to check float. One more time. Let's say 50. And now, yes, it works like magic. And keep in mind that this print statement, you no longer need it, because most of the time we use print statements to debug our code. So I could comment it out. What I mean by that, place a hashtag. So now it's no longer a print statement. I could remove it. So for example, when I'm done with my code, when it's sound and clear, and when I'm ready to go into production, I'll just remove all the print statements, because you don't wanna print anything. Okay, let me stop right here. And again, we have our chats going on. Please let me know if you have any questions about anything. And the point I'm trying to make today is, no matter how you plan to approach Python, and no matter where you're going to start, you always need to begin with data types. You need to build this fundament before you move to more sophisticated concepts. Because I've seen people would start Python with pandas. That's totally wrong. So obviously, maybe for some people this is kind of a little bit boring. I don't know, but some people say that's boring. For me, I just want to do like real stuff. But you see, to do real stuff, you need to understand how that stuff works under the hood. Because when you move to, let's say, pandas or NumPy, you're working with more sophisticated data types, data containers. And if you don't understand the basics, people get into trouble all the time. So they write the code's not working. They copying and pasting, copying and pasting. So in all my courses, my goal is to you be able to write code on your own with confidence after the course. And I guarantee that after my course, you will be able to write your own code. Of course, maybe you're gonna get some bugs and errors. That's part of coding process. I've been doing this for quite some time. I'm still getting like errors, but everything. But the most important part, you need to know how to debug your own code. That's pretty much what we learn in our courses. All right. Any questions about anything? All right. If not, then please join us this Monday, next Monday, Python for Data Science 101. And because there was a question about more intermediate level, so that's where we're going to be doing this intermediate level. So this is where we explore Python, pandas, and matplotlib. So matplotlib is a library for data visualization, and pandas stands for panel data library for manipulating and analyzing data. Also, if you're ready to jump in and pivot your career, I would recommend you data science certificate. Pretty much this certificate includes 3 courses: Python intensive, Python data science intensive, machine learning. If you're not ready to do all 3 of them, so try Python intensive that we're going to start on Tuesday. I believe it's Tuesday, March 12th. All right. And hope I'll see you next Monday for our another stream. All right. Thank you and goodbye.